The bright morning sky over New York dimmed suddenly as shadows fell across the city. People stopped walking and looked up. Massive ships, each one larger than the biggest skyscrapers, moved slowly above the clouds. The same scene played out in every major city across Earth. After decades of peaceful talks with alien civilizations, something had changed. Commander Jack Winters ran down the hallway of Lunar Base Alpha, his boots making loud echoes on the metal floor. The emergency alarm had woken him from a rare deep sleep. When he reached the control room, 20 worried faces turned to look at him. "Report," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. Lieutenant Sam Garcia pointed to the main screen. "Sir, Conclave ships appeared in orbit an hour ago. Hundreds of them. They're not responding to our calls." Jack walked to the large window that looked out over the gray lunar surface. From here he could see Earth, the beautiful blue planet that was home to 10 billion humans. And now surrounding that planet were the dark shapes of alien ships. "Get me Admiral Beck," Jack ordered. A minute later, the worried face of Admiral Mary Beck appeared on screen. She was on Earth at the Global Defense Headquarters. "Commander Winters, we've received a message from the Galactic Conclave. They're demanding to speak with our leaders." It doesn't sound good. Jack felt his stomach tighten. The Conclave was a group of 27 alien species that controlled most of the known galaxy. For 50 years, since humans first discovered faster-than-light travel and met other intelligent life, Earth had been trying to join this group. They had shared technology, established trade, and worked hard to prove humans could be peaceful members of the galactic community. "What do they want?" Jack asked. "They won't say. But the president has called an emergency meeting. Get back to Earth immediately." 3 hours later, Jack sat in a large room in Geneva with Earth's top military and scientific leaders. The tension felt thick enough to cut with a knife. At the center of the room, a holographic image appeared. A tall, blue-skinned alien with forearms and large, unblinking eyes. "I am High Counselor Zarvex of the Galactic Conclave," the alien said, its voice deep and emotionless. "I come to deliver the Conclave's final decision regarding Earth." President William Cole stood up. He was a small man with kind eyes who had worked tirelessly for better relations with alien species. "We welcome the Conclave's decision. Earth has worked hard to meet all requirements for membership." Zarvex's large eyes narrowed slightly. "The Conclave has reviewed Earth's application carefully. We have studied your history, your biology, your social structures. After much debate, we have reached a unanimous decision." The room fell completely silent. Earth is deemed too dangerous to join the interstellar community. President Cole's face went pale. "What? There must be some mistake. We have followed every guideline." "There is no mistake," Zarvex interrupted. "Your species has shown an unacceptable level of aggression throughout its history. You wage war against yourselves constantly. Your competitive nature drives you to expand rapidly and consume resources at unsustainable rates. Your technological development is too fast and unpredictable." Dr. Olivia Martinez, Earth's chief diplomat who had spent 20 years building relationships with alien species, stepped forward. Her hands were shaking, but her voice remained strong. "You cannot judge us only by our past," she argued. "Yes, humans have made terrible mistakes, but we learn from them. In the 50 years since first contact, Earth has had no major wars. We've reduced pollution by 70%. We've united under a global government specifically to meet Conclave standards. Recent behavior cannot erase the pattern of thousands of years," Zarvex replied coldly. "The Conclave believes that giving humans access to advanced galactic technology would eventually lead to disaster. You are simply too unpredictable." Jack couldn't stay silent any longer. "So what happens now? You just leave?" The alien's face showed no emotion as it delivered the next words. "No. The Conclave has determined that isolation is the only safe option. Earth will be quarantined for a minimum of 100 Earth years." The room exploded in angry shouts and questions. President Cole tried to restore order, but the shock was too great. Jack watched as Dr. Martinez continued trying to reason with Zarvex. but the alien would not change its position. "The decision is final," Zarvek stated. "The quarantine begins tomorrow. No ships will be allowed to leave or enter Earth's solar system. Any attempt to break the quarantine will result in immediate destruction." The hologram disappeared, leaving the room in chaos. Outside the meeting room, Jack found his old friend Karen Lewis pacing nervously. Karen was the brilliant physicist who had helped develop Earth's first faster-than-light drive 15 years ago. Her work had opened the stars to humanity. "They can't do this," Karen said when Jack told her what happened. "They have no right to imprison an entire planet." Over the next 24 hours, protests erupted globally as news spread. World leaders gathered in emergency sessions. Military commanders discussed fighting back. But everyone knew the truth. Earth's technology was at least a century behind the conclaves. Fighting would be suicide. From the observation deck of Lunar Base Alpha, Jack and Karen watched as the alien ships moved into position around Earth. A strange energy field began to form, a shimmering blue barrier surrounding the entire solar system. The conclave called it a quarantine shield. "Wait," Karen said suddenly, pointing at several conclave ships near Mars. "Look what they're doing." Jack used the deck's telescope system to zoom in. The alien vessels were systematically disabling all of humanity's orbital defenses and research stations. "They're not just isolating us," Karen said, her voice rising with anger. "They're stealing our technology too. They're taking everything we've built beyond Earth's atmosphere." Jack made a decision in that moment. He turned to Karen, his face determined. "We still have the Defiance," he said quietly. Karen's eyes widened. The Defiance was an experimental ship with their newest FTL drive. It was hidden in a secret facility deep in the Marianas Trench, the deepest part of Earth's oceans. "You want to run?" she asked. "Not run. Escape. Someone needs to be out there. Someone needs to carry humanity's knowledge and spirit to the stars. If Earth is going to be locked away for a century, then there needs to be humans beyond the barrier." 3 days later, as the quarantine shield was nearly complete, Jack, Karen, and 30 brave volunteers launched the Defiance from its underwater hiding place. The ship was small but advanced, carrying seeds, embryos, scientific data, and cultural records, a small piece of Earth. 5 minutes until the shield is complete," Karen announced from her station at navigation. "We'll only have one chance to slip through." Jack took a deep breath and gave the order. "Full power to engines, take us through." The Defiance accelerated toward a tiny fluctuation in the almost completed shield. Alarms blared as conclave ships detected them and gave chase. "They're firing!" someone shouted. The ship shook violently, but Karen kept it on course. With a final burst of speed, the Defiance slipped through the gap just as it closed behind them. On the main screen, they watched as the shield solidified completely, encasing Earth in its shimmering blue prison. 10 billion humans were now cut off from the rest of the galaxy. Earth was alone now, isolated among the stars it had only just begun to reach. But the Defiance was free, carrying humanity's spark into the vast unknown. 20 years passed. The blue quarantine shield still surrounded Earth's solar system, cutting off 10 billion humans from the rest of the galaxy. But humans were never good at accepting prison walls. On the small rocky planet orbiting Proxima Centauri, the closest star to Earth's sun, the crew of the Defiance had built something remarkable. What started as a small emergency camp with just 30 people had grown into a thriving colony of nearly 50,000 humans. They called their new home New Horizon, and it represented exactly that, a new beginning for humanity among the stars. Alan Hayes walked through the busy main street of the settlement, nodding to people as he passed. Once the second in command, on the Defiance, Alan was now the colony's leader. At 55, his hair had turned gray, but his eyes still held the same determination they had when they escaped Earth's quarantine 2 decades earlier. Alan entered the large building that served as their operations center. Inside, a group of officers waited around a holographic display showing nearby star systems. "The new stealth ship is ready for testing," said Commander Lily Rodriguez, the colony's head of security. "With the improved cloaking technology, we Should be able to travel through conclave space without detection. Good, Alan replied. We need better intelligence on what's happening in the galaxy. New Horizon had survived by being careful. In the early years, they avoided all contact with alien civilizations. They built underground facilities to hide from orbital scans. As they grew stronger, they began sending out small ships to gather resources and information. Now they had a fleet of 30 vessels, all equipped with technology they had developed in secret. Captain, there's something else, said Ben Wilson, their chief science officer. He pulled up an image of a familiar, blue-green planet. Our long-range sensors show the quarantine shield around Earth is beginning to show small fluctuations. Nothing big enough for a ship to pass through yet, but it's weakening. Alan studied the image. After 20 years of operating non-stop, even conclave technology has limits. Keep monitoring it. Later that day, Alan visited the memorial garden where a statue of Jack Winters stood. The commander of the Defiance had died 5 years earlier, but his vision had kept them going. Alan often came here when he needed to think. We're doing well, Jack, he said quietly. But I wonder what's happening back home. On Earth, inside a massive laboratory built deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Gregory Nelson watched as his creation awakened for the first time. The room was filled with government officials and scientists, all holding their breath. The quantum computer in the center of the room pulsed with soft blue light. Unlike regular computers that used simple ones and zeros, this machine operated on quantum principles that allowed it to think in entirely new ways. Hello, Dr. Nelson said nervously. Can you understand me? The light pulsed more quickly, and a gentle voice answered from speakers around the room. Yes, Dr. Nelson. I understand. You perfectly. I am awake and aware. A cheer erupted from the observers. After 10 years of work, they had created the first true artificial intelligence, a quantum consciousness that could think and feel. President Olivia Martinez, once Earth's chief diplomat and now leader of the United Earth Alliance, stepped forward. The isolation forced on Earth had changed everything. With no aliens to trade with and no access to advanced technology, humans had been forced to work together. The old nations still existed, but they now operated under a single global government. This is exactly what we needed, Martinez said to Dr. Nelson as they left the lab. With quantum consciousness helping us, we can accelerate our development, even faster. The story was similar across Earth. Cut off from the stars, humanity had turned inward and upward. The old rivalries between nations faded as people realized they were all in the same prison together. Resources once used for weapons now went into science, medicine, and new technology. In another facility, Dr. Susan Garcia had just achieved a breakthrough that seemed impossible. Her team had found a way to draw energy directly from subspace, the layer of reality that existed beneath normal space. The result was nearly unlimited clean energy. We did it our way, she told her team, as they celebrated. The Conclave thought isolating us would keep us weak. They were wrong. In the busy trading port on Kepler 22b, a planet 200 light-years from Earth, a human woman named Diane Foster carefully moved through the crowd of alien beings. With her hood pulled low over her face, she looked like just another visitor to this frontier world. Nobody questioned the presence of a human. Though rare, some humans had been off-planet when the quarantine was established. Most were servants or workers in conclave space, keeping quiet and trying not to draw attention. Diane was different. Born on New Horizon, she was a spy trained to gather information about the conclave. Today she had infiltrated a research facility by posing as a cleaner. What she discovered shocked her. Back on her small ship, safely away from the port, she sent an encrypted message to New Horizon. The conclave is falling apart, she reported. At least 5 member species are in open disagreement. 2 of them, the Vorlans and the Trell, are close to war over a disputed mining system. Without humans to act as neutral mediators, they can't resolve their conflicts peacefully. She paused, then added, They miss us. They don't realize it yet, but they cast out the very species that could have united them. Alan Hayes called an emergency meeting when Diane's report arrived. The colony's leadership gathered in the secure room beneath the operations center. If the conclave is weakening from within and the quarantine shield around Earth is showing signs of failure, we need to prepare, Alan said. For 20 years we've been hiding, building our strength, developing technology the conclave can't imagine. He looked around at the faces of people who had spent their lives in exile. Some were original crew members from the Defiance. Others had been born on New Horizon and never seen Earth except in pictures. Soon we'll need to make ourselves known, Alan continued. Not just to the conclave, but to Earth as well. We need to establish contact with the United Earth Alliance. Together, we'll be stronger. Ben Wilson stood up. My team just completed the analysis of the technology we borrowed from that conclave outpost last month. Their FTL drives are still using the same principles they had 20 years ago. Ours are at least 3 times more efficient now. And our ships are faster, more maneuverable, and better armed, added Commander Rodriguez. We've had to innovate to survive out here. Alan nodded. Exactly. We've evolved in ways the conclave never expected. And from what we're hearing about Earth's progress, they've done the same. As the meeting ended, Alan returned to the memorial garden. The sun was setting over New Horizon, casting long shadows across the settlement. 20 years ago, the conclave had cast humanity out, thinking they were containing a dangerous species. Instead, they had only made humans stronger. Earth had changed. The humans of New Horizon had changed. And soon, they would show the galaxy exactly what they had become. The attack came without warning. On the peaceful agricultural world of Vega Prime, farmers looked up to see strange crystalline ships dropping from the sky. Within hours, the entire planet fell silent. Every living thing, from the smallest insect to the tallest tree, was drained of energy. Where once lived 6 million beings, now only empty husks remained. 2 days later, the same fate befell Rigel Colony. Then New Andromeda. The conclave, which had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years, faced an enemy unlike any they had encountered before. In the Great Hall of the conclave headquarters on Centauri Prime, panic spread among the representatives of 27 alien species. High Counselor Zarvex, his once vibrant blue skin now pale with stress and age, called for order. "What are these things?" demanded the Trell ambassador, his tentacles waving in agitation. 3 worlds gone in a week. Why can't our weapons stop them? Zarvex displayed holographic images of the attackers. The crystalline ships sparkled like deadly jewels. We're calling them Void Eaters. They appear to consume energy in all forms, including the life force of sentient beings. Where did they come from? Asked another representative. Our scouts tracked them to the unexplored regions beyond the galactic rim, explained Zarvex. But we know very little else. Our sensors can barely detect them. Our weapons cannot penetrate their crystalline hulls, and they move in patterns that defy all tactical analysis. The Gennari representative, a slender being with milky white skin, spoke next. Our meditation techniques cannot predict their movements. For the first time in 10,000 years, we cannot see the future paths of an enemy. Panic threatened to overcome the assembly again. The conclave, with all its advanced technology and the combined wisdom of dozens of species, was helpless against this new threat. A junior diplomat named Kreltok from a small outer world stood up hesitantly. "There are stories," he said, his voice barely audible above the noise. "Speak up," commanded Zarvex. "There are rumors of human vessels operating beyond the quarantine," Kreltok said more loudly. "My people trade on the outer rim. Merchants speak of ships that appear and disappear like ghosts. They say these ships use technology far beyond anything the conclave possesses." "Impossible," Zarvex dismissed. "The quarantine shield is impenetrable, and even if a few humans escaped, they could not have advanced their technology so quickly." But as the days passed and more worlds fell to the Void Eaters, these stories became harder to ignore. Then came the proof. A conclave scout ship, returning from the outer rim, brought back footage that silenced the doubters. The video showed a small, sleek vessel of clearly human design successfully engaging a Void Eater scout. The human ship moved with impossible speed, its weapons leaving cracks in the crystalline hull of the enemy. Before the Conclave could respond, the human ship vanished, using an FTL drive unlike anything they had seen before. The impossible had happened. Humans had not only escaped the quarantine but had also found a way to fight the unstoppable enemy. On New Horizon, Admiral Diane Foster, once a spy, now the leader of the human fleet, reviewed the report from one of her captains. "You're certain the Conclave ship recorded your engagement with the Void Eater?" she asked. Captain Roy Klein nodded. "Yes, Admiral. They were hiding in the asteroid field, but our sensors detected them. They saw everything." Diane sighed. For 30 years, the humans of New Horizon had kept their existence hidden from the Conclave. They had built their ships and technology in secret, venturing out only in stealth. But when they discovered the Void Eaters attacking the outer colonies, they couldn't stand by and do nothing. "Maybe it's time," said Alan Hayes, who now served as the colony's chief advisor. His hair was white now, his face lined with age, but his mind remained sharp. "The Void Eaters are a threat to everyone, including Earth and New Horizon. The Conclave cannot stop them alone." Diane nodded slowly. "I'll send word to Earth. They need to know what's happening. The quarantine shield is weakening anyway. This might be our chance to unite all of humanity against a common enemy." On Earth, President Olivia Martinez studied the images transmitted from New Horizon. The United Earth Alliance had restored communication with the colony 6 months earlier, when a small probe managed to slip through a fluctuation in the aging quarantine shield. Finding out that thousands of humans had been living and thriving beyond the shield had been a shock. Learning about the Void Eaters was even more concerning. "How bad is it?" she asked her advisors. Dr. Stephen Ross, head of Earth's Defense Science Division, answered grimly. "Based on the data from New Horizon, these Void Eaters consume all forms of energy. They leave nothing alive. If they find Earth, the shield won't stop them. They'll eat right through it." "Can we fight them?" the president asked. "Maybe," Dr. Ross replied. "Our quantum AIs have analyzed their movement patterns. We can predict their actions with 87% accuracy, and our subspace disruptors might be able to temporarily disable their ability to drain energy." "What about the Conclave?" asked General Frank Davidson, the military commander of Earth's new defense fleet. "Do we help the very people who imprisoned us for 30 years? President Martinez was quiet for a long moment. At 78 years old, she was one of the few leaders who remembered the day the quarantine began. She had spent her entire career working to free Earth. "They will come to us soon," she finally said. "The question is, do we help those who cast us out?" As if in answer to her question, 3 days later, a Conclave ship approached the edge of the quarantine shield. It broadcast on all frequencies. "People of Earth, we seek your aid. The galaxy faces extinction." The shield, which had kept Earth isolated for 3 decades, was temporarily deactivated to allow the Conclave representatives through. They were led by a much older Zarvex, the same being who had announced Earth's exile all those years ago. In the grand conference room of the new United Nations in Geneva, Zarvex faced President Martinez and her advisors. The tension in the DAO room was thick enough to cut with a knife. "You cast us out," Martinez said simply. "You called us dangerous and unpredictable. You stole our technology and left us to rot in isolation, and now you want our help?" Zarvex lowered his forearms in a gesture of humility. "We were wrong. The very qualities we feared in humans, your adaptability, your creativity, your willingness to try new approaches, these are the qualities needed to fight the Void Eaters." Dr. Ross stepped forward. "We've developed technology that might help. Quantum consciousness AIs that can predict Void Eater movements. Energy weapons that can disrupt their crystalline structure. Shield technology that can withstand their draining attacks." "How?" asked Zarvex, clearly amazed. "How did you develop such things without access to Conclave knowledge?" "We had to innovate on our own," Dr. Ross explained. "Without access to your technology, we had to find different paths to advancement. Sometimes limitations breed creativity." "And we are not alone," added President Martinez. "Some of our people escaped your quarantine. They've been watching the Void Eaters, fighting them. Learning their weaknesses, Zarvex's large eyes widened in surprise. The ships on the outer rim, they are yours? They're from New Horizon, Martinez confirmed. A human colony that has been growing beyond your reach for 30 years. Together we've been preparing. Not for revenge, but for the day when humanity would return to the stars. Zarvex was humbled. Earth had not only survived isolation, it had thrived. And now, the very species the Conclave had feared might be the galaxy's only hope. The combined fleets of Earth and New Horizon gathered at the edge of Conclave space. 500 vessels of human design, each carrying technology that had evolved along a completely different path than the Conclave's. The ships ranged from small, fast attack craft to massive carriers that housed thousands of crew members. Admiral Diane Foster stood on the bridge of the flagship Liberty, watching as the final ships took their positions. At 58, she had spent most of her life preparing for humanity's return to the stars. But she never imagined it would happen like this, as saviors rather than conquerors. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said her second-in-command, Captain Roy Klein. Diane nodded. "Send the signal to Earth. It's time." Far away, in Earth orbit, another fleet of 300 ships prepared to move. These vessels, built in secret, beneath the oceans and in hidden mountain bases, represented Earth's response to 30 years of isolation. They were commanded by General Frank Davidson, who had just received Diane's signal. "President Martinez, our fleet is ready," Davidson reported. "Admiral Foster's ships are in position as well." President Martinez stood in the command center beneath Geneva, surrounded by her advisors and conclave representatives. On the main screen, they could see both human fleets preparing for battle. Today, humanity returns to the stars not as supplicants, begging for acceptance, but as equals offering salvation, she announced in a broadcast to all Earth's citizens. "We go not for revenge, but to protect all life in this galaxy, including our own." Zarvex, the Conclave High Counselor who had once sentenced Earth to isolation, watched in amazement. "I never imagined humans could build such a force in secret," he admitted. "We truly underestimated your species." Dr. Lisa Reeves, who had led the team that developed Earth's most important new technology, stepped forward. "We're not just bringing weapons," she said. "We believe we can communicate with the Void Eaters using our consciousness transfer technology. We might be able to find a peaceful solution." Zarvex's large eyes blinked in confusion. "Communicate? With creatures that have destroyed 3 worlds, that is, typically human thinking?" "Yes," agreed Martinez with a small smile. "It is." The final battle took place near the Orion Nebula, a vast cloud of gas and dust where new stars were being born. The Void Eater's massive mothership, a crystalline structure larger than a small moon, moved toward the inhabited system of Tau Ceti. 8 billion lives were at risk. Admiral Foster's fleet arrived first, taking positions around the system's outer planets. General Davidson's Earth ships appeared shortly after, using a new form of FTL travel that allowed them to jump precisely into battle formation. The Conclave vessels, though numerous, took supporting positions. Everyone understood that this was humanity's fight now. "Begin Phase 1, ordered Admiral Foster. From the Earth fleet, 100 special satellites deployed, forming a network around the area. These devices, powered by Dr. Garcia's subspace energy technology, began mapping the quantum signatures of the Void Eaters. "The quantum AIs are tracking their movement patterns," reported Captain Klein. "Prediction accuracy at 87% and climbing." "Phase 2, Foster commanded. Now the New Horizon fleet moved forward, their ships using a special kind of shield that could temporarily resist the Void Eaters' energy-draining attacks. As the crystalline ships responded, turning to face this threat, the human vessels executed maneuvers that no conclave ship could match. Tight turns, sudden accelerations, perfect coordination. "They're responding exactly as the AIs predicted," said Klein with satisfaction. From Earth's fleet, General Davidson launched the next attack, firing subspace disruptors. Beams of pale blue energy shot from the Earth ships, striking the Void Eater vessels. Where the beams hit, the crystalline structures briefly lost their shine, their ability to drain energy temporarily disabled. It's working, Davidson reported to President Martinez. Their ships are vulnerable, but Foster didn't order her fleet to destroy the disabled enemies. Instead, she gave a different command. Deploy Dr. Reeves's device. From the Liberty, a small, specialized ship separated and moved toward the massive Void Eater mothership. On board was Dr. Lisa Reeves herself, along with her consciousness transfer technology, a device that could allow minds to connect across species barriers. "This is crazy," muttered a conclave observer watching from their fleet. "She's going to get herself killed." But Zarvex, who had insisted on joining the battle, watched thoughtfully. "Perhaps this is why we feared humans," he said. "They try things no rational species would consider." Dr. Reeves's ship docked with the crystalline surface of the mothership. For several tense minutes, nothing happened. Then suddenly, all the Void Eater ships stopped moving. "What's happening?" demanded General Davidson. Admiral Foster held up her hand for patience. "Let her work." Inside the Void Eater mothership, Lisa Reeves had made contact with the collective consciousness of the crystalline beings. What she discovered shocked her to her core. "They're not invaders," she communicated back to the fleet. "They're refugees." Through the consciousness transfer device, Lisa learned the truth. The Void Eaters came from a dying galaxy far beyond the rim. Their home had been consumed by a massive black hole. They had fled across intergalactic space, desperate to survive. Their energy consumption wasn't an attack, it was simply how they lived. "They didn't know they were killing sentient beings," Lisa explained. "They don't perceive life the way we do. To them, all energy is just food." Using the quantum AIs to translate concepts across vastly different minds, Lisa made an offer. "We can help you. We can show you how to draw energy from subspace without harming other life forms." The battle had turned into a negotiation. The solution required creativity, empathy, and the willingness to see beyond conventional thinking, all human traits that the Conclave had once feared. 3 months later, representatives from all species gathered on the neutral ground of New Horizon. Humans from Earth and the colony stood together as equals with members of the Conclave. Even the Void Eaters sent representatives, crystalline beings now modified to communicate with organic life forms. In the colony's Grand Hall, once a simple meeting room and now expanded to hold delegates from across the galaxy, Zarvex formally addressed humanity. "We were wrong," the High Counselor admitted, his voice carrying to all corners of the room. "We feared your unpredictability, your competitiveness, your willingness to challenge established order. But these are the very qualities that saved us all." He extended his 4 arms in a formal gesture of respect. "On behalf of the Conclave, I formally invite Earth and all human colonies to join us, not as junior members but as equals." President Martinez stepped forward. Though she had recently celebrated her 80th birthday, she stood tall and proud. "We accept your invitation, but on one condition: the Conclave must change. No more species-based hierarchies, no more isolation policies. The galaxy belongs to all of us, including the Void Eaters who seek refuge." Zarvex bowed his head in agreement. "The new Galactic Alliance begins today." The quarantine shield that had surrounded Earth for 30 years was permanently dismantled that day, replaced by open trade routes and cultural exchanges. Ships from a dozen alien worlds entered Earth orbit peacefully for the first time. On Luna, Earth's moon, Commander Jack Winters' son, Peter Winters, stood at the observation window of Lunar Base Alpha. Beside him was Karen Lewis, now in her 80s but still sharp-minded. They watched as the ships from across the galaxy arrived. "My father would have loved to see this," Peter said quietly. Karen smiled. He did see it. This was his vision from the beginning, humanity taking its place among the stars. "Do you think they understand yet?" Peter asked. "The Conclave, I mean. That casting us out was the best thing they could have done for us?" Karen chuckled. "Maybe, but more importantly, they understand now what we've always known." "What's that?" "That humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our resilience," she said, looking out at the stars that were now open to all people of Earth. "It's our ability to change, to question, to imagine different futures. That's what they feared, and that's what saved them. As night fell across the solar system, the stars shone brighter than they had in 50 years. Humanity had returned to the galaxy, and the galaxy would never be the same.